had some gear that was a very expensive gear that just frankly didn't live up to its standards. And I mean, I didn't own a deer rifle when I was 16, and so, as I began to develop this company, I wanted to produce top performing gear. He designs for U.S. Special Forces, a lot of the top militaries around the world, and he designed a mountain stealth.
Most gear wilts to that challenge, it doesn't stand up to it, but the hard Scrabble series, super durable, and it's held up to everything that I've thrown at it. The Wasatch base layer top is a really good piece for that early season. You can roll the sleeves up, make it a t-shirt during the day.
I always love to get feedback from for those that have worn Scree gear and even those that haven't. And that's something we take pretty seriously over here at Scree.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Well, we're recording, so don't say anything super awkward, or do. That could be a lot of fun. Yeah, let's hit the live video. We'll see if this comes on. What's up, everyone? We are live on Instagram recording a podcast from the Scree booth here at the International Sportsman Expo in Sacramento. That's where we're at, right?
Yes, sir.
I haven't slept a lot, so I kind of forget where I am.
Sacktown Throwdown.
But, here with Mike Neilson of Scree and Mr. Ben Shedcrazy Dettamanti.
Yes, sir.
Talking a little bit about Scree and a little bit about hunting. So I guess this will be episode 53 of the podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 53 of Living Country in the City. So, really quick, Ben, we've already introduced you a little bit on episode 26 of the podcast. Had you on, talked a little bit about shed hunting. Mike, why don't you give us really quick, maybe just a little bit of background on yourself and how you originally got into hunting and the outdoors.
Sure, you bet. So I grew up in northern Utah, along the beautiful Wasatch Front. Grew up hunting, pheasants with my dad. My dad was a big bird hunter, and so I kind of grew up, chasing pheasants and stuff. And we did a little bit of deer hunting, not a lot. We were typically, would go out opening weekend, and that was really about it. And when my dad was 16, it was his first year hunting. He lucked into a really big buck, and there's a really cool story behind that. But anyway, he killed this great non-typical mule deer, and I just grew up coming home from school and looking up at those mule deer antlers and really just dreaming about the day that I'd have the opportunity to take one of my own. And so that's really kind of where I got my start with hunting, is just, like I said, hunting with my dad. And when I was 15 years old, my family moved to southern Utah. And, of course, there's excellent big game hunting down there. For those that know me, I'm very passionate about all kinds of hunting, but specifically mule deer. And so anyway, that's kind of a little bit about my history and how I got started in hunting. I mean, I grew up hunting. I haven't really known anything else. I mean, I cut my teeth on it. Hunted with my dad from, as far back as when I learned how to walk. So,
yeah. So, grew up hunting. How then did you transition from that into when was the start of Scree and the company, and kind of how'd that come about?
Right. So the idea for Scree probably happened probably 6 or 7 years ago. I've been very blessed. I've started a few companies and had been very blessed with how successful we've been with those companies, and that's kind of allowed me, financially to kind of travel around the world, and we've had the opportunity to hunt from Alaska to Africa, and of course all over the Rocky Mountain West. Anyway, some years ago, a good friend and I were hunting Alaska, and we backpacked for 18 days, man, and hunted out of backpacks. And on a hunt that extends that long, it's really a true test of how good your gear is. And frankly, I had some gear that was a very expensive gear that just frankly didn't live up to its standards. I mean, and so, there were just some things that I felt like that I could do better. About 3 years ago, I decided to start an apparel company. And that Scree was kind of born out of the wilderness hunting, and has evolved in what we are today with our extreme layering systems.
Sounds good. So, Ben, when did you originally start getting involved with Scree?
Well, I've only been working with them on a professional level for a couple years now, but originally I bought it. I heard about this product through Travis Roundy and through some other friends who were involved. And I went when they got some of the very first production products coming in. I went and bought it out of a garage in St. George. I got my hands on it. I knew it was something I liked, I wanted to be affiliated with, but I also wanted to use it for a little while before I began a professional relationship with these guys. And I put it to work in the field, and I really, really liked the product, and I started working with it professionally. I guess it's been about a year and a half ago or so. I began to do a little bit of social media promotion with them. And just have been doing some of these shows, some of these expos. I helped them do some of the inventory and the moving of the warehouse when they went from a garage to a warehouse, and been there for the growth process. And I talk a lot about in my Instagram stuff and in my YouTube about my philosophy on debt and my personal stance on personal finance. And I just love this company because they fell right in line with what I've always believed. The way they've built this company from a small little thing that was ran out of a garage to what it is today, for me, is an awesome testament of what kind of people are running this company. So I kind of came on board a while ago, and I love it. I don't feel like I ever want to go anywhere. It's a great place to be for me.
So now you guys are releasing the new pattern, but before we talk too much about the new pattern, why don't we talk where did the inspiration from the original pattern come from?
Right. So with Mountain Stealth, that's one thing that as I mentioned earlier, I said from that hunting trip, I felt like there were some things that were missing in the industry, and one of those was I just really didn't feel like there was any kind of real science behind concealment, and of course. When you look at the men and women in the armed forces, and you look at how dangerous it is to be in the armed forces. Certainly, we want the men and women that protect our country to be safe, and a big part of that is having concealment that works. And so what we did is I sought out one of the top guys in the industry. That's a concealment expert. This guy, he designs for U.S. Special Forces, a lot of the top militaries around the world. And anyway, we partnered with him, and he designed the Mountain Stealth concealment pattern, which excels in multiple habitat biomes. We've tested it out in Africa, Alaska, and of course here where we live in the Rocky Mountain West. It's just really a great pattern. It's I call it a pattern, but it's really a concealment algorithm. There's true science behind it. So anyway, that's it. That's how Mountain Stealth was born.
And so now moving in from Mountain Stealth, we're releasing the new pattern.
Yep. So we're releasing Summit. And that's one thing that we do here at Scree is we listen to our customers. And one of the things that many of our customers requested was that we come up with something that excels in more open habitat environments, above timberline in the prairie country, or if you hunt open areas with stands of aspens and stands of pines and different things. So, the Summit pattern was created for kind of as a universal pattern. It excels in a lot of different biomes, a lot of different habitat environments, but But anyway, yeah, I mean, we wanted something for every concealment situation in the West, and we feel like with Summit and Mountain Stealth that we fill all the gaps.
Awesome. So now Ben, what would you say some of your favorite pieces of gear out of the lineup are?
I'm a big fan of the Hard Scrabble series. The Hard Scrabble pant for me is the first thing that really won me over as being just an amazing piece of gear. And the original pair of Hard Scrabbles that I bought, I have almost 3 years on those pants now, and they're still holding up. I hunt, I've told you in the past, I shed hunt full time, and I put 100-plus days a year on my gear. Most gear wilts to that challenge. It doesn't stand up to it. But the Hard Scrabble series, super durable, and it's held up to everything that I've thrown at it. So the Hard Scrabble pant, Hard Scrabble jacket. But some of these new pieces that they're launching for me are going to be awesome. Like that Canadi hoodie, something I'm super excited about. 95% merino, 5% spandex. Just comfortable, nice performance piece that I can use for a hoodie in the field. I'm super, super excited about that piece.
I'm excited to try out that Canadi hoodie. I picked up a Kaibab base layer, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's great. I've been out in Arizona for the past few weeks, and it goes from fairly chilly to blazing hot in the course of a few hours. So it's nice being able to layer, but that Canadi was great. I just roll up the sleeves, unzip it a little bit, and suddenly I got a T-shirt.
Right.
But I'm excited I wanted something that I could wear, something lighter but still a little warmer that I could wear underneath. So I'm excited to give that new piece a try.
Yeah.
And it's a great piece, too, that can be worn, either independently or as a next-to-skin layer. It's great for that mid to late season type hunting. But really, it could be even worn independently in the early season as well. So that's a great piece. It is a little bit heavier. It's 300 GSM, but it's a great piece to add to your extreme layering kit.
No, absolutely. So what would be good kit, say, for me in Arizona? I'm still building out my kit. Right now I love my Hard Scrabble pants. They're absolutely fantastic. I've been using those. I have the Hard Scrabble vest. I have the Kaibab. The Kaibab's the...
Yeah, the next to skin layer.
Yeah,
the quarter zip.
I'm still learning all the names. I have the Kaibab, and so maybe if I'm trying to put together a good kit for going back out to Arizona for these late season hunts where it still gets pretty chilly at night but warm during the day, what would be maybe some other essential pieces that I could look into grabbing?
Right. Now I don't believe you mentioned the Uinta pant, right? Do you have that? The Uinta pant?
No, I currently have the Hard Scrabble pant.
Awesome. So the Uinta pant is an awesome pant. So if you do a lot of early season hunting or early season scouting, for example, in August, July, into mostly September, that Uinta is a great pant. And of course, if it gets a little chilly in the morning, you can layer under it with our next to skin layers, either in the Kaibab or in the Wasatch. But yeah, that's a great early season piece. But frankly, you have a lot of the good pieces already. As Ben mentioned, probably the flagship of our company is the Hard Scrabble series. That is a good place to start if you're wondering, what pieces to start with. The Hard Scrabble jacket, Hard Scrabble pants, Wasatch base layers are all a great place to get started. And we'll kind of span the gap of a lot of different hunting situations.
Yeah. So we're on Instagram Live right here, and we're getting a couple of questions, it looks like. We're also, Justice Nielson wants me to tell you hi, Ben.
What's up, buddy?
What would you guys recommend for a midsummer Arizona hunt? So probably heading out August when it's hitting 100 during the day.
Right.
What would be probably a good layering system for that?
I'm gonna defer this one to Ben because I think he's got some experience in it. Go ahead.
I bow hunt Utah in August all the time, hot weather stuff. My go-to is the Uinta pant, like you guys were just talking about before, because the ventilation, the airflow is everything. The air vents are built right into the fabric, And then you have hip vents as well, so you can get that breeze going through. I'm a big guy. I generate a lot of heat, and I need to unload that heat somewhere. And then I would go with that Kaibab Merino top, like you're saying, or else even the Wasatch base layer top is a really good piece for that early season. You can roll the sleeves up, make it a T-shirt during the day. Really, I mean, that time of year, you want to wear the least amount of gear as possible because it's so hot, except for first thing in the morning. And so I would just stick with the standard pieces of the layering system. The hard scrabble jacket, I take one with me. I'll wear it for those little bit in the morning, and it has the big heat dump, the big heat vents in the armpits, and you can unzip those and get some of the core heat vented out. And so it's a good piece for that. But, you know, I don't think you can beat those Uwinna pants. I don't think you can beat that Kaibab Merino for that time of year, or the Wasatch base layer, which is also awesome for that stuff. So
Gotcha. Let's see really quick. Let me take a look. Let's see if we got any more questions. We've got some people that are requesting a thorn-proof pant for Arizona hunting.
A thorn-proof.
Something maybe with a reinforced rear end. If we're being completely honest, I wouldn't complain about having a reinforced rear end for Arizona, a glassing pant.
Yeah. So we do have some kind of exciting news in regards to that. We are working currently on a new pant that's going to be reinforced in the butt area, also in the crotch area and in the knee area. So look for that. It will have knee pads that are easily removable from the exterior, though.
Okay.
You don't have to flip them inside out. You can, because I know there's a lot of guys that like knee pads and there's a lot of guys that don't. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't like to hike in knee pads, but frankly, when I'm moving in for a stock, it's nice to have some knee pads. Also, when you're dressing an animal out, man, it's really really valuable tool to have knee pads. So anyway, that pant is probably going to be released hopefully sometime about probably just before the archery season, we hope. We're still working out some details on that, and we've got our team of athletes they're certainly a big part of that, producing that pant. So we love listening to our customers, man. It's important what they have to say, and so yeah. We always love to get feedback from for those that have worn Scree gear and even those that haven't. And that's something we take pretty seriously over here at Scree.
So now if people have been using Scree gear, some of the customers already, what is the best way to reach out? Is it just on the website be like, hey, I had a few thoughts about how this piece could be improved or anything like that? Is it just best reach out, contact info on the website?
Absolutely. Best thing to do is to send us an email. And the one thing that we do is we log everything. If someone has a problem or a suggestion or anything like that, we log that. And so when we visit with our manufacturers, all of that stuff is taken into consideration as we improve the quality, the durability, as we add new features to the product. So yeah, absolutely. Just send us an email. We love to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. And yeah, and I know after my Idaho hunt, I put my hard scrabble pants and the rain gear and a lot of these pieces just through some pretty gnarly stuff and conditions, and I you quickly learn when you're in awful, heinous conditions what works and what doesn't, and
right.
what you can improve on or swap out
sure.
for a different piece. And I definitely I reached out. I talked with Mike Wan, and I think I sent the poor guy probably a page and a half of feedback, and 90% of it was positive, and there's just a few pieces that I'm like, hey, I would love this, or I wish I thought about this, and yeah, no, the response from him was super positive, and it's always nice just as a consumer to when you send feedback and things like that to know there's somebody listening on the other end of the line. But
well, we're definitely listening, and we that's a big part of our business model going forward is that we listen to the people that wear our gear, and we love that they're involved in the development of new pieces. So
is this new pant that's coming out, is that going to be coming out in both the Mountain Stealth and the Summit.
Yes, of course. Yep.
So what else? We talked a little bit about the patterns. What else would you guys say really makes Scree unique? Why, if what's the sales pitch? What would you really tell someone to sell them on Scree gear?
Right. So it kind of goes back to my roots as a kid. I know I talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but I remember what it was. I grew up in a big family, man. There was 7 kids, a lot of mouths to feed. I had parents that were good people, worked hard, but at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot of money to go around, and I remember what it was like to be young and poor and love to hunt, but not be able to afford really any of the gear. Heck, I remember when I was 16 years old. It was, back then you couldn't hunt until you were 16. They later changed it to 14 and then 12, but back when I was a kid, I remember scrambling before the deer hunt to try and find a rifle that I could borrow. And I was usually in competition with like my brothers, to find a rifle that I could borrow from an uncle or dad or something. I didn't own a deer rifle when I was 16, and so I remember what it was like to be young and poor and not have all this kind of equipment. And so as I began to develop this company, I wanted to produce top performing gear, and there's a lot of great gear out there. Let's just be honest about that. There's some great companies out there, but what I wanted was not only top performing gear, but gear that's priced responsibly, that you get all the features and benefits and performance that you expect out of high quality gear. I wanted all that, but I wanted it to be responsibly priced, and the idea, Scree was born out of that whole idea, and that's where we feel like we're really unique. Now, we are direct to consumer. There's other companies that are also direct to consumer, so that doesn't necessarily make us unique, but it does allow us to keep the price points where they are responsible, and where guys that are very serious about hunting can afford to have top quality gear to pursue their passion. And so anyway, that's really how this company got started, and that's something that as we design new pieces, that's always at the forefront. There's no compromise in quality, but we always take into consideration, is this stuff top end gear, and is it responsibly priced?
And I definitely know from the perspective of a new hunter and someone that's just kind of, I'm building out my gear, and when you're coming into it, especially if you don't know anyone that hunts, if you don't have any friends that you're going out with, or an uncle or a dad that has gear for you to borrow, or that has purchased stuff for you, you're buying everything. And once again, you invest in the gear you can afford, and you kind of just work harder for the rest of it. But having something, feeling that you can, as a new hunter, there's a lot of confidence that's built in feeling like you can go out and buy top quality gear and still afford it, and not have it, completely break the bank. And I really appreciate, that's honestly one of the biggest things that I gravitated towards when I saw Scree, and it's, I can go out and feel like, okay, I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to, I'm going to have gear that's not going to fall apart on me, but I'm also going to still be able to afford a tag at the end of the day. So that was one of the huge things that I gravitated towards with Scree. So Ben, you're recently out in Arizona, putting your Scree gear to the test. How did that go for you?
It went really well. I don't know if you guys had a chance to catch up on what I've been doing on YouTube. There's a YouTube video up of my hunt in Arizona, and it went really well. I had a really good time out there, a really good hunt. It was one of those situations like you're talking about, really cold in the morning, really warm in the afternoon. That's kind of the way the weather's been this year in Arizona. But the gear worked perfectly. I was actually sitting in a ground blind on a pond for a good majority of my hunt. And I think the color of this gear, this Mountain Stealth pattern, is a little bit darker pattern. And when you're sitting in the shadow in a blind, I feel like it just does tremendously well. The deer that I ended up harvesting came to the water. He was completely unaware that I was anywhere in the vicinity. He came down and drank, and I was able to put an arrow in that deer before he ever knew I existed. And for me, that's the biggest thing, to make a clean and an ethical kill on an animal. Ideally, you don't want him to know that you're there. And to be within 25 yards of a deer and have him not know I was there was just a perfect scenario for me. And I was able to make a clean, quick kill on that deer in spite of the fact that I was so close to him, and he could have very easily seen me. It was a good hunt. I also did some spot and stalk on that hunt in the tall sagebrush, and I was able to get within bow range of another deer that I probably should have killed. But I flung an arrow at him. I had what I felt was like a really high percentage shot, and he dug his heels into the ground and spun, and my arrow went right in front of his chest. So It's just one of the things that happens to us as bow hunters. But man, it was a great time, and I felt like the gear performed well. I've never had it in a situation where I feel like it didn't perform for me.
So what was the kit you took? Like, what was your head to toe kit as far as the Scree gear?
I have the whole layering system, and pretty much by and large I take it with me when I go. It wasn't a backcountry hunt. I was able to have my truck there with me, so weight wasn't an issue. But the day that I took my deer, I was wearing the hard scrabble pant, and I was also wearing I believe I was wearing the Alpine tee, and then I had the Mad Trapper hoodie over the top of it. Because, one, for sun protection, because the sun was kind of coming and going. I was getting a little bit of sun. I didn't want to get sunburned, so I had long-sleeved. And then also for the concealment factor. And so that's what I was wearing that day. I wasn't wearing base layer because of the warmth of the temperatures. But in that hunt previously, I did wear the Kaibab base layer. And I always sleep in the base layer because it's like the warmest pajamas, and then you don't get caught up in them while you're sleeping like you would with sweatpants or anything like that. I sleep outside a lot in a sleeping bag. And they're like the best. I call them my Scree jammas.
Yeah. And if you see Ben, you might see Ben down at the local Walmart walking around in those things, man.
Yeah, the leggings.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife said I'm not allowed to go out of the house in them anymore for the neighbor's sake. I don't know what the problem is.
I've had my fair share of nights sleeping in various levels of the Scree gear, and never an issue. I think during my Arizona hunt, I was so tired by the end of the day that I just pretty much had everything on, vest, the hard scrabble pants, everything, just climbed in. I barely was able to take my boots off, I swear.
Yeah.
But no, they were definitely super comfortable. Had no issue sleeping in them, and especially if you're somewhere like my Idaho hunt, and you're getting the cuffs, your pants soaked or whatever it may be, from hiking through snow. You want to be sleeping in those pants because you want them to dry out, and that was just never an issue the whole time I was out there.
Good.
So, say somebody like myself was like, okay, I'm still, I want to go hunting a few times this year. Maybe I want to chase some mule deer in Idaho, and then I want to go do some late stuff in Arizona. I don't have a ton of money. I want to get just a few basic pieces that'll kind of cover me,
right,
as broad as possible. What would you say is like maybe the starter kit for someone that can't afford the whole thing,
sure.
But
well, we have some bundles, and the Rocky Mountain bundle's a great bundle. But, for someone that's just wanting to get going, just get started, you got to be really careful because in the Rocky Mountains, as you know, the weather can change in an instant. You can have 60-degree temperatures one day, and the next day you can have 10 inches of snow in the mountains. It happens actually quite frequently, and so you got to be.
I'm very well aware of how quickly that can change,
and it can, and frankly, it can be deadly if you're not prepared. That's why we have gear. Of course, we want to be able to stay out in the field longer, but ultimately, we can end up in situations where it's a matter of life or death or survival. But anyway, to get back to your answering your question, the hard scrabble jacket is a no-brainer. It's a great jacket. It's got the micro fleece in it, and it's bonded to soft shell face fabric. It's DWR coated, which means it's water resistant. It's not waterproof. You need to get our rain gear to have a waterproof shell. But that's a great piece. I would add at least an insulation layer of some kind. Probably the hard scrabble vest, and then the hard scrabble pant. I mean, as Ben mentioned in the beginning, I think the hard scrabble kit, which consists of those 3 items, the hard scrabble pant, the hard scrabble jacket, and the hard scrabble vest, is a great place to start. And I think would certainly be affordable to most guys that are just getting going.
Absolutely, I can definitely echo that. That hard scrabble vest is probably my favorite piece. That's my piece that I like just wear around.
Yeah.
It's very stylish.
Yeah.
You gotta look the part, right?
That's right.
No, I love it, and I love being in LA. I just love wearing camo that's obviously not like the army camo that you see. It's like super trendy to wear. I love wearing like actual technical hunting camo around Los Angeles because it makes a statement. It's very. Between a giant, between a giant American flag tattoo on my arm and that, it tends to, I get some stares.
Draw attention. Yeah,
it's fun. It's I've gotten some people that have
a 4-letter word conversation starter.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that has happened a few times.
Yeah.
But so people want to check out Scree online. Where are they headed?
www.screegear.com. And anyway, it's a great shopping experience. Like I said, a good place to start would be to check out our bundles.
I do like that you have those listed out. It's definitely. Let me echo that again. You've got you can buy everything individually. You can piece it out. You can sort it a million different ways. But for someone that doesn't really know what they need, you guys have it listed out pretty nice where you can just kind of click and pick really.
Absolutely.
Really
and
easily.
Of course, people can always call the 1-800 number. It's a toll-free number. It's listed on our website. And if they have any questions whatsoever, be sure and give us a call and we'll help you, get started. We'll make sure you get all the right pieces.
So now for those that don't really know, what does the name Scree mean?
So Scree is basically, if you've ever hunted in the West, you've probably crossed what they call a Scree slide. A lot of people just call them a rock slide. It's basically a pile of rocks that have fallen off a cliff face over hundreds of years, thousands of years. There's water and that water freezes into ice and then it turns to ice and then it cracks and it falls off into piles. And so that's basically what Scree is, and I've crossed plenty of those in my days, from Alaska to throughout the Rocky Mountain West, and so we thought that was a pretty fitting name to describe the ruggedness of our equipment.
Sounds good. We do have one more question here from the Instagram Live. Warpig Moi is asking if there's a military discount.
Yes, we do have a veterans discount, and you can go right online at the bottom of the homepage. Just click on that, fill out that information, and then we'll send you a discount code for our military.
Awesome.
Yep.
So as we're winding down, this podcast is generally targeted at folks like myself that are just getting into hunting, may not have a background in it. So say somebody came up to you and said, hey, I want to get into hunting. I want to get into the outdoors. But I'm just, there's so much to learn, so much to do. I'm really intimidated by this. What either words of wisdom or advice or recommendations would you give to them?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Last week at the Denver Expo, I actually had this exact conversation with a lady that works with youth that are trying to get youth involved in hunting. And as you know, hunting, it's just, by and large, it's just not getting passed on to the next generation. And one of the things that we talked about, people that are want to go hunting, want to experience hunting here in the Rocky Mountain West. It's kind of intimidating. Like, where do I get started? What kind of do I want to bow hunt? Do I want to rifle hunt? And I just want those individuals to know that, there's programs, there's groups, there's places that you can go to get involved. Highly recommend. One of the best things to do is start with a hunter safety course. Those are generally offered in most towns. That's a great place to get started. But as far as in terms of gear, don't hesitate to give us a call. We'd love to walk you through that process and help you out. So
awesome. So Ben, you've already answered this question before, but I'm going to make you answer it again.
All right.
What would you say to the person that feels too intimidated to get into the outdoors?
I would just say that all that intimidation that you're feeling, it's not from people that you probably want to associate with anyway. The people in this industry who are making differences, the people who are working hard, they encourage others, they build each other up. And I think that there are plenty of sources for that, for positivity in the industry. You just seek those out. You block the negativity out and seek out the positivity, and you'll be able to find people who help you find success. It's a long road. It's full of hiccups. Sam, getting into the hunting world from a zero hunting experience standpoint, it's hard work. It's difficult, but it can be fun if you make it fun. And I also would just say to anybody, don't be afraid to look dumb. Don't be afraid to try things and fail. And if you keep doing that, eventually you start to succeed and you'll learn more and more. I know it sounds like a stupid motivational speaker or something, but really just stick with it. Keep going. Don't listen to the negativity. And don't worry about looking a certain way or doing things a certain way. Do what feels right for you and what coincides with your personal code of ethics, and you'll find success.
And the hunting community is just, as Ben mentioned, the hunting community is just awesome. There's not a group of people that I'd rather be around and be associated with. Look, everybody's into hunting for different reasons. Some guys are trophy hunters. Some guys are meat hunters. Some guys, there is a large segment of people that literally go out into the woods every year with a rifle or a bow with no intentions on killing anything at all. It's not about, I think the hunting industry, hunters as a whole get a bad rap as it's a blood sport. And you know what? It's not. That's not what it's about. It's about being out in God's creation with people that you love, your friends, your family. It's about the passion, the chase. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of these guys that don't ever harvest an animal. And I just want to let people know it's not about harvesting an animal. It's about spending time in the outdoors with the people you love and just enjoying God's creation and these beautiful creatures that He's created and that we have the privilege to hunt. But for me, I am a trophy hunter and I'm also a meat hunter. There's nothing like providing lean, clean protein for your family. And anyway, that's some of the reasons why I hunt. But like Ben has mentioned, don't be intimidated by it. Just get your feet wet. Like I said, the hunting community, we love to embrace new hunters, and I think you'll find that if you give it a try.
Absolutely. I think that's some really good advice from both of you. The hunting community is a great group of people. I'm the first person to attest to that. Like, running this podcast, I've gotten to talk with some of the best people imaginable and just down to earth. I think that's honestly why this whole thing became a hunting podcast. Originally, I was going to talk about country music and off-roading, just going out shooting guns and kind of anything country, if you will.
Right.
But it really just, I fell in love with the hunting community and the people in it, and everyone just makes themselves so accessible and is so willing to help anyone that wants to learn that, that's kind of why this turned into what it did. And I want to thank you guys for sharing your time. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, you bet.
It's an honor, Sam. Thank you.
All right, folks, that'll do it for episode 53 of Living Country in the City. We are going to log off here on the Instagram Live. Make sure you check out the show notes page. That'll be at livingcountryinthecity.com/53. I'll have links up for everything with Scree gear, all the socials, and everything for Mr. Shedcrazy over here. and we will talk to y'all soon. Keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.